There it is.
Cool, thanks. So my name's Dean. I'm with the ORMAP Tools Committee. At Osaka, those of you that were there, we talked about annotation and the Josephine guys expressed their frustration. And I think everyone else was kind of like, yeah, but we live with it, which that was kind of, it wasn't enough. And so I had committed to talking to ESRI. So I talked to the Partial Fabric team and the annotation folks. They set up a meeting with the Josephine guys, Jeff, Gabe, and Bob, and we got some information and some help and some commitment from them. So what I'm going to do right now is just go through what we found out. Found out some capabilities that I did not know about, and we're going to go through those really quick. One of the issues that came up is setting the offset like you do in ArcMap does not exist in ArcPro. We kind of went through why. The annotation team went, we just thought if you just wanted to move it, that would be enough. And we discussed why a set offset was important to us. Unfortunately, the 3.5 release, which is the next release, is pretty well spec'd out and moving to implementation for ESRI. And they committed to adding that into 3.6 if it was all possible. And the other piece is we did figure out how to do an offset, and I'm going to go through that. So what I'm going to do next is just walk through the email I sent you guys. Anybody's got questions as we talk about it, feel free to ask. But basically, what we found out is that one, it was pretty frustrating when you added annotation and it didn't follow the curve of a line. And we found out that that was a setting issue. And if you go to the edit ribbon and click on the little manage edits down below, which is where you set it, your edit options, you can view a section on the annotation. And in that section, what I have found that has worked for me is that I've selected the curve option and then for when following features. And then when following features, I've set it to left. So that seems to have worked. The other piece that I've run into that has been super annoying is that when I go to follow features, it often grabs the tax lot polygon. And that's because the tax lot polygon, and don't ask me why, is higher in the contents list than tax lot lines. When I moved in this, Jeff found this out quite a while ago. If you move tax lot lines higher in the table of contents, then you're going to follow the lines. So changing to curve, making sure you can follow lines, two nice things. The other piece that I did not know about that ESRI showed us is that when adding annotation in a follow feature environment, you can change the options. So when you're in that follow mode, you press the right mouse key and a little menu appears and it says enable options. And when you click that enable options, it brings up the same menu that you had before, and which allows you to change some things. And then while you're following the feature. And then the other piece that I found that has been super nice is that I can use the tab key when I'm adding the annotation. And so when I'm adding my annotation and I hit the tab key and it's in follow mode, it will flip the direction and walk through displaying it on the left side, the right side, flipping it backwards and forwards. And you just go tab, 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 and that's pretty cool. And so that really helped me out in placement of stuff. And then the last piece is that you can change the offset distance in the attributes. So if you set the Y offset value, just a second, I have to add another person. When you set the Y value, Y offset value, it will then set it to that distance. And what we found out is that if you go positive, like +1, it enters it farther away if it's above the line. If it's below the line to set the offset, you should do a -1. And we'll talk about that more with the tasks in just a second. So what I'm going to do is just, and I apologize, I'm not the cartographer that you all are, but I'm going to do a create. And this is using the Benton County data. I'm in the midst of doing some Benton County conversion and customization. And what I'm going to do is just create, and here's the follow feature. And I have to wait a minute. And if I type a value such as north, like I have here, and click on the line, it now is following that line, all the lines that are tax lot lines. I can then use the tab key, for example, if I wanted to edit it on either side. And in this case, I just want to edit it on that side. And I'm going to say yes. And then I'm going to go to the attributes. I want to go to the attributes and slide down to Y offset and enter 2. And what I found is 2 out of 1/100. And every county uses a slightly different offset, so you may want to look at this for what your county does. But what you can see is that's pretty good. I'm going to discard that, but you get the idea. And I'm going to add it again. And this time, I'm going to add it to the bottom of the line. And I say finish. And then I go to my attributes. And now I'm going to enter a -2. And the one thing when you're messing with the attributes here is got to make sure you hit enter and then apply. And you can see that here, the -2 isn't quite enough. So I can hit 3 just to make sure I match the others. And now it's -3. And that's really how I can set the offset. So before I jump into tasks, that was pretty quick and short. Are there any questions?
And what happens if you hit the X offset?
So the X offset slides it left or right along the line.
Okay.
So in this particular case, and it's really weird. If the line it's always relative to the line. So in this particular case, let's enter a -5 and see how it slid it down. So X offset is left or right along the line, and Y offset is above or below. That seems to work pretty okay. This seems to work better. What I did as part of this then, and this is some work I was doing with Department of Revenue, is to play around with the tasks. And a couple things that were not working well in the tasks is that, let's say I wanted to type, I was entering the tasks and I wanted to type my own value and not have it grab the bearing distance because it didn't have any annotation, or I didn't have a distance. So in this particular case, I've got north. I'm going to type it in. I'm going to follow the feature. And in this case, I want to be north on the up side of the line. And when I go next, what it's going to do, it now is going to calculate it. Now, had I not typed my values in, it wouldn't have grabbed it. And then it automatically does the offset calculation for me. And then it lets me go in and change my attributes if I want. And that's important because if I had, as we talked about a few minutes ago, if I had entered my value, below the line, I don't know what side the line goes on. So in this particular case, what I did is, besides typing in it there, is that the offset is not going to be correct because I always assign it a 2. And so I can quickly go in and change that attribute. Via -2 and apply. And that's how it works. Now, if I was, and in this particular case, I typed in the value, if I was following a line. I think that's the value I'm looking for. Or it may be all uppercase, I don't remember. If not, I'll do it again. Yep, it was that. And see, and now it grabbed the underlying line. And just like before, it applies the offset and you're all set to go. And so I have updated those tasks. That's what I've made available. And then I sent out a link with that that talks about how you can customize the link. And that's part of the DOR project where we're doing some training things.
Hey, quick question, Dean. I don't recall if we've done this, but in the task at the add annotation point number 1, can you still use that tab key there? I assume you can, but I can't think if we've ever tried it or not.
In when I'm adding it,
Yeah, at that point, or can you at any point where it's selected? I guess that's the.
well, I can set the offset by selecting any piece of annotation. So I don't
Well,
think
yeah, but I mean, so in the task,
oh, can I
yes,
enter in a value?
yeah,
You know, I played around with that. It gets kind of annoying. So the nice thing about it is I could add all my annotation in this particular case if I was following, go all around. But if I enter multiple annotation, as you know, with attribute, the attribute pane is I can select all the ones I want to be above. I can grab all those and then calculate that field to be -2 or -20 or.
oh, right. So you don't even really need to tab it.
Yeah, so in that particular case, it works better in an area where you just add all your annotation in, and then obviously you know where your annotation is, you just placed it. Then you can grab those that are above. Those should be set correctly if you're using the task. If you're not using the task, you just calc them, and then you grab the others and calc the minus side, and you're set to go.
Okay, all right.
We played around with saying, okay, let's set a default value as well. You can try that. It did not work as well for me. But you could set the default value for each annotation layer. What I ended up doing is I ended up doing that in the tasks itself. And so in the task, for example, I use a Y offset of 2 at 1 to 100. I think I used 4 for a 1 to 200, 6 or 8 for a 1 to 400. And then I think I played around with either 20 or 30. But what I've found is that when I've gone from using it or testing the tool at Tillamook versus Union versus Benton, everybody uses a slightly different offset value as they go. The other thing that we found is that that number is not feet. I don't know if that's pixels, whatever it is. Playing around the 2, 4, 6, 20 worked okay. And it, you know, obviously it worked all the way through because it works based on zooming in and all the rest of it. Other questions?
I just had a question, because I've never done this before. So if you set a Y offset, that becomes part of the attributes of that piece of text. So then if you decide later to move that text, does that change the attribute?
If you move it, it is going to, the offset will be moved. The offset is relative to the position of the original annotation. So I'm going to share the screen again. And I'm going to enter in a distance. And what I assume is going to happen is that that piece of annotation when I place it, that's the annotation location. The Y offset as an attribute is going to be the Y offset for where that annotation is when I place it. That's its origin. So if I went in and then moved it,
Yeah, as long as the Y offset's still at 2, it shouldn't, well, I guess.
so
yeah, that's
what should
interesting.
happen here is the Y offset still set, I assume. And so I don't really care. I better select that one again. Sorry. And so now if I go into attributes, I'm almost positive it's going to work. Yeah, see the Y offset set. So if I set that back to 0, see how it just moved? So it's relative to the origin of the annotation, and that gets set when you place the annotation. So the attributes are applied to the original. So for example, now if I went in and said -10 or 20 on the X offset and applied, it's now there. But even if I move it, I'm moving this annotation with the included offset. And so I don't care. Once I've placed it and I've set my offset, that offset now is an attribute that's part of that piece of annotation. And I can make it go away. Or do whatever else I want to it. Just get the idea. Other questions? I'm going to stop recording.